So
On demand?
we are back live, and the link to rejoin for those that were in the Hangout, that's in the description feed. And I think the person you're talking to has already jumped in, so um, we'll just continue that conversation you're having.
Hopefully it'll work.
Oh, it'll work now because I didn't mess around with the cameraman. I forget his name though.
Vincent.
Vincent.
Yep,
All right. Yeah, so what? Atheist worldview, by definition, is not coherent. So they can claim and want to have a consistent internal worldview, but it's not going to work.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I've interacted with atheists before, and just online and whatnot, and found that they can't seem to stay consistent. If they tried to stay consistent, they would be being inconsistent.
Right.
Sorry.
What?
Oops. Wait. No, I hit mute. I muted him accidentally. Sorry. I was sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Let's say that accident for an atheist when he's talking.
That's not nice, Matt Slick.
Got rebuked.
That's not very loving.
It's not very loving. That's true.
But I do have another quick question.
Sure.
This may have already been answered, I think, in a past hangout that I've seen of yours. But it was a long while ago. You were having a conversation with an atheist, as it happens, and they were asking about, I think it was objective morality and whether or
Yeah.
not Christian morality was objective. And if I remember correctly, you gave an answer that was a little bit off. But I think that in later hangout, I think you had not corrected that specifically. But I guess to give you more of a question now that I've set it up, um, is there a? I guess I've got a question and then kind of a follow up afterward.
Sure.
Is there a point where you can be trusting God too much?
No.
And when I, yeah, good, okay, cool. And in that question is built in, the trust or the faith that God has given us, wisdom and intelligence and whatnot. So I'm not going to stand in a road and say, oh, there's a truck coming, God will save me. That's trusting God. No, that's not trusting God. He
Right.
gave you intelligence and wisdom. So that's good. And then I guess the follow up is, um, it, it deals with what you were discussing with that atheist, where they had asked a question. I believe it was, is there a situation
Is there a
where
what?
is there a situation where lying can be an okay thing to do, or something along those lines? And you said, well, I don't know every situation, so I don't know if I can give a yes or no answer to that.
Okay.
Something
Well,
along those
it
lines.
doesn't make sense. Lying, by definition, is a sin. It's always a sin, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the exact situation because I wouldn't say that lying is good or bad depending on the situation. I would never say that. If I did, then I just completely misspoke.
Okay, and that's kind of what I figured, because like I said in a uh, later hangout, you had said something. I'm like, oh, okay, well then he probably doesn't actually, believe that. But I think the atheist, from what I can remember anyway, went away thinking that Christian morality was not objective because, in some situation there might be some way that it might be okay to do something that the Bible says is not okay to do.
Oh, I don't recall it, and that's against what I would teach. So
Yeah.
either one possibility is you misheard it, the other possibility is I misspoke it, uh,
Mhm.
or whatever. I mean, because no, lying's a sin.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it might not have been exactly lying; it might have been something else. But like I've heard a lot of people say, like, oh, well, if you were in Nazi Germany and the Nazis came up to your door and you were hiding Jews in your in your house, what would you do? In that situation, because there's no point where you can trust God too much. you would go, okay, well, yeah, I'm hiding them in the back. There are two things that I think come up with that. One, I'm trusting God enough to where, okay, well, either the Nazis going to believe me and there's a reason for them going back and getting those Jews and arresting me too or whatnot, or the Nazis not going to believe me. I mean, who the heck would go, oh yeah, who the heck would say, yes, I'm hiding Jews? They wouldn't believe you or something
Right.
along those lines.
Yeah,
So I
it'd
mean,
be a tough one.
it's again, it's trusting God enough to where you follow what He has decreed for you. So yeah, so yeah, hopefully I'm just remembering incorrectly or something along those lines, because that is most definitely possible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is, and also I could have just said it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it happens. Yep. I've been it before. I remember once I was preaching and I got down from the pulpit and I was guest preaching at a church. I've been there several times, and the elders are looking at me with smiles on their faces. I'm like, what? And they said, you know what you said up there? I'm like, uh-oh, what'd I say? They're smiling, and they said, you said Jesus was not God. And I said, I did not say that. And they go, yes, you did. They're all laughing because they knew I just misspoke. It happens.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they just said, oh, they knew. It was one of those things where you get confused in your words and trip over yourself. No big deal. It happens. But, there is something that's interesting about what you just said. Matthew 9:29, Jesus says it shall be done to you according to your faith. So if I were in Nazi Germany and they came to the door and I'm hiding Jews, I probably would say, no, I'm not hiding them. And then go back inside and say, Lord, I don't know what to do. I need to protect them. Please forgive me of my sin. I didn't have the wisdom. I didn't know what to do. Maybe I didn't trust you enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the second thing that I failed to mention, was that I might just be out of fear sin, and like you said, then go, okay, well, I'm sorry, Lord, I just couldn't do it. Or I couldn't in that situation trust you enough, and I apologize for that.
Yeah. Yeah, there could be some. It's a tough one, and I notice that God hasn't put me in such situations, probably because He wouldn't trust me to be in those situations, do the right thing. So maybe that's it.
Gotcha. Yeah, and again, God wouldn't put you in a situation that you wouldn't be able to handle. So can't
Yeah,
remember what
no,
verse that is, but yeah.
that's right. And normally I just sit here in front of my computer. That's what God could trust me with.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So other people came in the room. We got Ephesians. I've been to Ephesus, incidentally. That was fun. And Aaron's there. I don't know if Arion. He's an atheist or Christian or what. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sounds good. What church you go to? You live in Cuna. Joe, there's a guy named Joe. He lives in Cuna. He goes to my Bible study. Lakeview Bible. I'm trying to remember where that is. Okay, that would make sense. Oh, yeah, that would make sense. Down over there. Yeah, it's like 15, 20 minutes from me. Yeah, I go to Eagle, one in Eagle. Okay. And I spoke there. Oh, that's right. I did, didn't I? It was a panel discussion. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. They were fine. Yeah, no, there wasn't any hostility there. We had lunch or dinner before that, and he actually upset me enough for me to get up and go to the bathroom, and just you know, because what I try and do, and he caught on. Let me rephrase what happened. He asked me a question, and I would try to answer it, and in the middle of the answer, he'd ask another question. I started to answer that one. He started to interrupt, and I don't do well with that. And that went on for like a minute, and I said, "Look, I can't handle that. It's just an autism thing. It's just whatever." I bailed, and when I got back, he goes, "Hey, I'm sorry about that. I shouldn't have done that." I'm like, "Okay." That was the worst it got. And he's a nice guy. I like him, but I purposely have not heard. I've chosen to not hear too many things that, or not listen to things he's actually said that I've heard about, so that I can get that door open, so I can say I haven't heard. And I want to be able to keep that door open, and just to be honest, I want to be able to dialogue with them and see if future things are going to happen. I want to talk about the Trinity with them and universalism and other things. So we'll see. Yes, yes. Yeah, I wish I had his video studio. That'd be great. I'd love to have a setup like he's got here, because I'd be every Wednesday night, for example, I'd be having a study, and it would be live and the whole bit. He's got a great setup. He really does. Sure, sure. Are you a Calvinist? Oh, good. Okay, then you're okay.
Aaron, let me interrupt because for some reason people cannot hear you on the live feed. So everything that Aaron says, if you're going to answer the question, Matt, you need to restate what his question was. Yeah.
Is it possible for you to have your mic on while he's talking and it feeds back through? So if there's a speaker or something, you could put his. I mean, that's what. I don't know.
Well, you would be going through as well, which would be an
But
issue.
isn't that okay? Because that's what we want. Unless it's a reverb or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Apparently, Aaron is the only one. Go ahead, Aaron.
John 3:16. Easy. For God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son. So then the Armenians will say that the word world means every individual. And then one of the things you can do is say, how do you know that? Well, it says world. Okay, let me ask you another question. How do you know it means every individual? They're staring at you. Well, it means world. Yes. What does world mean? The planet? The trees? The ocean? What does it mean? And they don't realize that what they're doing is they are imposing a value on that word in that context and just assuming that's what it means. The word world there means every individual. That's what they automatically do. And they don't even see their own bias. I try and get them to see that they're biased. How do you know that's what it means? Well, because it does. How do you know? And then usually about the fifth or sixth time I've asked them, they actually stop and start thinking about it. I'll say, look, let me ask you a question. Was Jesus sent to the whole world? About half of them will say yes. Some say no. I'll say, well, Jesus said in Matthew 15:24 that He was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So I said, now let me ask you, was Jesus sent to the whole world? And they have to say, well, no. because Jesus said he was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's what Jesus said. So, when it says he loved the whole world, what's it talking about? Is it every individual, or is he talking about all the nations? Because Jesus came covenantally, the Messiah came for Israel. That's what he said in Matthew 15:24. So you could start thinking like a Jew. I'll try to illustrate with them, and I'll say, look, let's say a couple of Jews are walking down the road back at the time of Christ, and they're having a conversation. They're dedicated Jewish people, and they keep all the laws and the whole bit. And then one of them says to the other, hey, did you hear? So-and-so at the temple said that the Messiah is coming for the whole world. What kind of idiocy is that? They would respond with. We know the Messiah is sent only for the people of Israel. That's Jewish thinking. That's how it was. That's the culture. That's the theology. And so when the Jews rejected the Messiah, they broke the covenant, and therefore we were grafted in. John 16, Romans 8. We're grafted in. So therefore, when it says Jesus went to the whole world, it's talking about all the nations. That's all. That's how you answer it. Same thing with 1 John 2:2. Propitiation not only for our sins, but sins of the whole world. Okay? I think that's how I answer it, and I watch people's faces slowly change. What? I never thought of that. Oh, yeah, you're presupposing too much. But anyway.
Okay.
I
we
can
have
check
to,
really fast.
Matt, if you're going to engage with him, you've got to say what his question is.
Oh yeah,
Aaron,
that's
you
right.
should try to leave and come back and see if your microphone will work.
Yeah, does the word world mean the same use of the word? There's a word, world is cosmos, and like gomenos or something like that. And the word world in John 3:16 is cosmos, and the word world in 1 John 2:2 is also cosmos. And besides that, words move, they mean in context, of course. But so it just means world. I mean, what does it mean? You know, in context. That's the answer. That's what I give.
Matt, you are going to Calgary this Friday and Saturday, and someone has asked, what will you be speaking on?
I'm speaking on two things. One of them is why the Bible. So I'm going to do a small defense of the Bible, why trust the Word of God, things like that. And then the other one is Roman Catholicism. I'm looking forward to that one.
Say the second one again. I didn't hear the answer.
Is Roman Catholicism Christian?
Okay.
And so I haven't written either outline yet. So I'm going to have to do that tomorrow and Tuesday because I leave Wednesday. So.
All right.
Well, so I'll be there for
our next guest is Michael. Michael's been waiting for a while. I'll turn your microphone up. And Michael, you there? I can. Welcome. Good to have you with us. Did you have a question for Matt? Oh,
you
I'm sorry.
Christian or what? Okay. Want me to grill you, or we got something to do? You know, something else I can grill you if you want, or not, whatever. Okay. You moron! Why are you an atheist? How's that for grilling? So for real, why are you an atheist? Okay. Oh, me too. Seriously, I wanted to be a marine biologist. Took all the science classes in high school, and I took so much science and math that I was exempt from it in college. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, same here. Yeah, they invented a class for the this is going to sound arrogant, but the smart people in our school, 2,000 people in high school, and they said, the prof said, hey, we do this advanced physics class. You want to be in it? Yes. You know, taking trig and physics and chemistry, and I was digging on it. I loved it. You know, I do. I still like it. And I love watching documentaries and stuff like that. I like documentaries. But you know, whatever. So you're an atheist. Have you ever thought about your atheism very much, or are you just like, yeah, I'm an atheist and that's it? Okay, so let me ask you a question then. Why don't you believe God exists? Ah, okay. I was hoping you'd say something like that because the trap just got set there and everything. Okay, so lack of evidence. Aha. What kind of evidence? Okay. Oh, good. Good for you. Wow, that's kind of surprising. Good for you. Well, let's look at the empirical evidence, because empiricism means that you're looking at things through your senses, and empirical evidence deals with the physical realm. If, and we'll combine a little logic in here, if God is other than the universe, then is the, so to speak, looking at the scientific method, looking at the physical evidence the right way? So then empirical evidence wouldn't be the thing you should look for, right? Okay, good. Because the scientific method is designed to look at the material realm. Right. Okay, so, and you're right. And so therefore, the material, it looks for materialistic explanations, and therefore, by definition, the scientific method cannot be used to find God, not find God anything. It's just a different category. Okay, good. So are you a materialist? Do you know what that means? Okay. So a materialist believes that the universe is all there is, and that everything operates under the laws of physics, motion, matter, based on the physical actuality. I'm sorry, say it again? Okay. I wouldn't know if that's true, because we can demonstrate our thoughts exist. Wouldn't you agree? But do thoughts have existence? Well, when I think of something, it's occurring. There's an occurrence. For something to occur, doesn't it have to have some form of existence? So thoughts have a type of existence. This is why some people are dualists. What they say is there's two main things in the universe: thought, thought and matter. I call it dualist. Right, substance dualism. But that usually deals with the soul, mental stuff, substance dualism, property dualists, and things like that, dealing with the mind. But so the reason I'm asking is because, logically speaking, if we take this position that the physical universe is all there is, we just work with it philosophically and say that everything operates under motion and matter, and that's all it is, then we could not trust our own thinking. And the reason is because the physical brain must also operate under those same physical laws of motion and matter, chemical reaction. The question then becomes, how can we, given that premise, determine or show that our thinking is proper logically? We wouldn't be able to, because, as Gigo, garbage in, garbage out. If the brain is just simply a physical machine, so to speak, complicated one at that, and what goes in necessarily produces a result that goes out, then there's no necessity of logical inference being developed, just reaction. And that would mean that you couldn't know if what you were thinking was true at all, which would mean that perspective can't be trusted because it would be self-refuting. Make sense? How do you know that if materialism is true? You wouldn't know. Your statement is just chemical responses. See, and how do you know that? Because remember, now what I've said is all you're going to do, or I'm implying is all you're going to do is respond according to what the chemical reactions in your brain require. It doesn't mean that anything you say is logically valid. It just means you're responding to stimulus. No matter what you say from now on, I can respond with that. Your brain programmed you to say that. It doesn't mean if it's true or not. It has no bearing on if it's true. It just means it's a response that you're giving. So you see how problematic that position is? Well, I don't think I'd have to demonstrate that brains are not just chemical reactions, because we don't want to argue from what something isn't. We want to argue from what we know. If an atheist, for example, wants to say, well, I don't know what it is, so I'm going to argue from that. That's what Dillahunty did. When we had a discussion once, he said there was a third option to the idea of transcendental laws of logic. I said, well, what's the third option? He says, I don't know, but it exists. Well, it's problematic. And if we're going to say we don't know how the chemical reactions of the brain work, or the brain or the mind or whatever it is, and therefore other things are possible, then that's arguing from ignorance, not from logic, and not from evidence. Because the evidence that we do have is the material world is very, and I like what you said earlier. That was actually astute of you. You said earlier, so far from what we know, the universe consists only of the material realm and that kind of a thing, which is that's a proper thing to say. But from that perspective, then materialism and atheism within that cannot be validated, and it's not a rational position to hold because you can't trust your own brain to produce proper logical conclusions. You see? Yeah. Well, properties are measurable. And bowling ball has hardness, it's a sphere and things like that, and mass and density. So when we're having our conversation here, what we're doing is using logic. And logic is a process of the mind, but it's based on the laws of logic. So if you and I were the only two people who existed, period, and we were having a conversation, we disagreed on something, how would we determine whether or not one or both of us are wrong or right? Now, there'd be all kinds of situations, is there a rock inside that box? If it was just you and me, we could figure to open the box, we can look. But talking about a kind of a thing that's a logical truth, or something about absolutes, or something, where the point is, where we would have to appeal to something outside of ourselves in order to determine the answer. So what I'm trying to get at is that if I make a statement that's illogical, like, I don't know if you can see the camera, but I've got this bottle of water in my left hand. And if I said to you, I do not have a bottle of water in my left hand, you would obviously say, well, Matt's got some problems here. It's not true. And if my brain was the only thing in the universe and logic was a process of my brain, then there's no truth to the issue. In order for there to be truth, I'm hearing sometimes, in order for there to be truth, there has to be cognition and statements that correlate with actuality and or logic. But these logical laws exist outside of us. We have to appeal to them. In a materialistic, atheistic world, how do such laws of logic exist and have their universality and their absoluteness by which we can then appeal to see who's right and wrong about things? Ah, there you go. That's actually transcendence, but yes. So the laws of logic are transcendent, but logic is a process of the mind, right? And so the law, right? But those, right, right. But those logical laws have their existence. We appeal to them. They're called in philosophy abstract entities. They have some form of existence some way, somehow. How do we say that? I don't know. I don't know of any construct, abstraction, that can exist without a mind. Because the laws of logic are abstractions. They're of the mind. They're laws. Because they're absolute from an absolute mind. Either dependent upon the absolute mind or part and parcel to the absolute mind. If the absolute mind is non-contingent, then the laws would be non-contingent. If the absolute mind came into existence and it'd be contingent on something else, then those laws would be contingent. But since the laws of logic are non-contingent and transcendent, it implies a non-contingent transcendent mind. God. I don't know of any case where an abstraction can exist without a mind. Well, I don't know. I think it's a little bit tautologist because by definition an abstraction is from the mind. It's like saying, I think so. It's like saying, I don't know of any place where a thought occurs without a mind. That doesn't mean that there can't be some place, but how do you have a thought without a mind? Because a thought is the result of a mind. A thought that comes from a mind. Yeah, that's a toughie because you know what a thought is, you think. I know what a thought is, I think. It's a process of our minds. Because if we were dead, our brain exists, but there's no thinking going on. So it's a process of a mind, not just a brain. And then you get a property dualism, substance dualism, and things like that with mind. But we look at this issue of what a mind is, and so you and I are able to participate in using the laws of logic. Law of non-contradiction, law of excluded middle, law of identity, things like that. We can participate, but you and I both have to appeal to things outside of our minds, these laws. So how do these laws have universal, transcendent, absolute existence in a materialistic, atheistic world? But saying they're necessary doesn't answer the question. And we're talking about these transcendental laws of logic, which are abstractions. And all that we know of everything, abstractions require minds. But if you were to say they're just necessary, then I can say, well, then God is necessary. And if you say the laws of logic are just necessary, that's called necessitarianism in philosophy, then I can say God necessarily exists, and your argument can be used to prove God exists, which would refute your atheism. They're the property of his mind. God has always been, therefore his mind has always been, therefore the laws of logic, which are properties of his mind, have always been. Okay, let me say it again. Logic is a property of his eternal mind. If you're going to say the laws of logic had to exist prior to him, then God is subject to the laws of logic. But how do you have these universal laws of logic, which are abstractions, to which God submits? That means there's a mind beyond him. Yes. If they have dependence upon a mind because that's the nature of them. But if God himself is non-contingent and independent and transcendent, then those laws have necessity by the fact of God's mind existing. No, it doesn't, because God is absolute. The laws are absolute. Absolute means non-variable. They do not vary. They are true absolutely. Contingency is what you're talking about. That they are contingent upon God's mind. And I would say, yes, they are. And since God is... Yeah, that's why I redefined it, or tried to clarify the definition. Transcendence means not dependent upon space and time. The laws of logic are transcendent. They're not dependent upon space and time. They're not properties of the physical universe. And since they're not dependent upon space and time, and since we know that they are invariant, they are absolute. So we have these abstractions which are transcendent and absolute. And since they're abstractions, it's fair to say that a thought reflects the mind thinking it. And since these things are abstractions and are absolute and transcendent, it's fair to conclude that what is behind them, the necessary precondition for them, is an absolute transcendent mind. Yeah. And that would be evidence for God's existence. Well, that'd be non-contingency and aseity. And God alone in Christian theology has aseity, A-S-E-I-T-Y. And what aseity means is, let's just say in the Christian context here, eternal self-sufficiency and self-existence.
Matt,
So, yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but no one can hear anyone but you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off air. So there are 11 people watching this now who painfully all they've been doing is hearing you.
Buddy.
So
Poor people.
So what I'm going to do is let me tell those people who are watching that you can, assuming they can hear me, maybe somebody could check, but click on the link to join, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the broadcast. If you want to just hear the interaction, or whether you want to engage with Matt Slick, I want to encourage you to come into the Hangout, because in the Hangout you can hear everybody, okay? Likewise, if you're in the Hangout and you're done engaging and you're not interested, if you would kindly make room for others. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm sorry, it appears to be a Google issue, not a user error. So my apologies for that, and that's it. I'll probably delete this video anyway, because no one's going to watch it for 45 minutes with not knowing what's going on. So as our listeners. Yeah, well, you could watch it late. Well, if I let me just end it. So, guys, if you want to engage, just come in the Hangout, and everybody can hear everybody. So.